So January was a surprise to me because not only did I read the three books that I thought I was going to read, I read two more books. I am a genius. Hey everyone, Professor August here, and today I'm going to talk about the five books that I read in January. I was not expecting to read five. I was only expecting to read three, but I found myself with a little more downtime than I usually have. And the two that I picked up just on a whim are two books by Susan Calman. The first one is called Cheer Up Love, and the second one is called Sunny Side Up. And they were fantastic. They're just fun, light reads. The first one, Cheer Up Love, Adventures in Depression with the Crab of Hate. It's just a straight up memoir about Susan Calman dealing with her depression, which she calls the crab of hate, and that internal voice that she has that makes her depressed sometimes. And it was just a nice connection to have. She's a really fun person if you've ever watched her on QI or any of these travel shows she has. Um, she's just a fun person to watch. And then reading about her depression and her anxiety and the way she's learned to cope with it was really great. The second book that I read by Susan Calman was called Sunny Side Up. And it's sort of a foray into what joy is and how we as a society have lost joy. Well, she lives in the UK, so it's like how they have lost joy, but most of it applies to us in the United States as well. Um, it's a little more political than, actually, it's way more political than the first one I read. Sunny Side Up deals a lot with how politics and social media have taken joy out of our lives and how we can, just find it again through small acts of kindness and doing things for other people and not being so internally minded, not so just focused on ourselves all of the time. So I thought those two books were fantastic. If you haven't read them, I highly suggest picking one up just for like, they're funny books, but they're also super light. And they gave me a lot more insight into who Susan Kelman is. I really, really enjoyed both of them. On my actual TBR for January, the first one was Disorientation. And if you watch the video that I made about this book, the review, it's in the description box if you haven't watched it already. I adore this book. Elaine Chou wrote this, and it is just such a fun satire of being in college and graduate school. So I really enjoyed this book. It's on my syllabus in one of my literature courses, so my students have to read it and discuss all of the issues of race and racism and white supremacy and yellowface, uh, getting through academia and college, and how college can sometimes just be a comedy of itself. It's a farce sometimes, and so I really, really enjoyed this book. I think it was the third time I've read it. I will probably come back to this every year just because it's light, it's fun, it's witty, it's a great read. The Murder of Mr. Ma by S.J. Rozan and John Chen Ni, super fun. It was such a good read. I really enjoyed it because there are aspects of the early 20th century mixed in with Chinese culture, with kung fu fighting, with a detective story. It read like it had been written 100 years ago, which I just absolutely loved. Um, it's a fun read. So they're like it's a book I would suggest for like a Sunday afternoon with a cup of coffee, right? Like it's not a super intense book. It's just fun to read it. And then there are a few kung fu scenes which are delightful because you can actually imagine this happening. There wasn't really anything in this book that was like antiquated or not antiquated, anachronistic. So all of the scenes and all of the things that happen in the book, you could actually imagine the 1920s in London being like that. Um, the other thing I really enjoyed about this book is the fact that the two main characters were real people. One of them was from the 7th century and one of them was from the 20th century. And so the authors took these two historical characters and just placed them together in the 1920s in London and gave us this wonderful detective story. And it's part of a series. So the next one's coming out in a couple months in April. So I'm really looking forward to reading that one. The last of the books that was on my TBR for January was The Fetishist by Katherine. If you saw the review for this book that I made a few weeks ago, you'll know that I had a really rough time with this one. Not because the book was bad. The book is fantastic, wonderful. The writing was great. It's just like I haven't gotten over what happened with my mother in like 6 months ago. Hasn't even been 6 months. So it was a tough read for me just because of the timing of it. The story follows Kyoko and Alma and Daniel, and it's really like it's a story about forgiveness. It's been a few weeks since I read it, so I've calmed down from when I read it, and I was like super in my head after I finished reading it. But the story follows these three main characters who are trying to deal with forgiveness and coming to terms with everything they've done in their lives, the decisions that they've made. Um, After I sat with it for a while, it really started to click because Daniel is the white character who takes advantage of young Asian American women and kind of, I don't know, he exoticizes them in a way that makes them different and sexualizes them because he's attracted to them. But at the same time, he like sees them all as the same. And this is the part that I think is really helpful and connects to American history and just Western perceptions of Asian women, where on the one hand they are very exotic and sexy, they're the dragon lady, and then on the other hand they're just these just demure, quiet women who do what they're told to do. And so both of those things exist in Daniel's conception of these women. But towards the end of the book, we kind of see the, I don't know, realization that sometimes we make decisions that are bad and we have to live with those decisions. And so I thought it is a really, really good book. So, if you've read these books, let me know what you think about them in the comments below. I'm really looking forward to the TBR that I have for February, so look out for that video. I recommend all of these books because I think they're just fabulous reads. There wasn't one that I read and thought, I don't quite like it. That happens once in a while. I mean, when you read as much as readers do, you obviously are going to come across books that aren't great. But these five were really, really good. I really enjoyed them. The first two by Susan Calman, they're memoirs, like autobiography type stuff. Really fun, really great. And the other three as novels were delightful. I really, really enjoyed them. So I hope you pick them up if you haven't already. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe below. Catch you in the next video.